I thought about something today because of the girl I met today. That if you watch the other video, you'll understand more about that story. But that's the video in front of this video. So we're not going to go and rehearse that again. Anyway, I said something that she agreed with, and it was basically that education should be free. Now, we probably do not agree with how education should be free, but we probably do agree that education should be free. Education is free in high school, elementary school. I don't understand why college education is not free. I personally believe education should be free and that it should be in the public sector. Now, how would that work? I mean, the education should work on school vouchers. I also believe that these school vouchers, you should be learning, and that schools should be open year round, and that the 8-hour shifts of schools should coincide with the 8 hours shift that you as a parent are at work. That way your kids are in school while you're at work. So I think schools should have maybe 2 different shifts. And I believe that schools should be, again, all schools should be private schools. Public funded, privately controlled. So they're government funded, not government ran. I think schools' curriculum should be more catered to a independent based over a government required standards. And I think that these things should be more determined on what is more emphasis on useful, valuable skills so that people can become productive members of society and be self-determined, self-taught, self-independent, and survivalists and all that different things. So skills should be taught equally, if not as much as other things. Valuable, useful skills that you can use throughout society. Financial skills, home economic skills, auto mechanical skills, mathematical skills, woodworking, carpentry, home remodeling, repairing skills, cooking skills, life skills, etc. All that should be taught. Possibly patriotism and military-ish type stuff like survival and whatnot type skills, camping, and they should be catered probably not only just to the area you live in, but catered to other areas you might end up one day living in. So they should go beyond, like if you live in a desert, you should still be taught how to survive in the winter, like in the snowstorm. Even if the area you live never sees snow. That's just an example. That being said, I also think that since we're already numbers, right? If you have a bank account, you're a number. If you have a job, you're a number. If you have a social security card, guess what's on it? It's a number. You're a number, right? If you have a driver's license, there's a barcode on it. It's a number. Okay. Gotcha. We have the technology now that a lot of education could be gained solely independently on your own. You have a Gmail account, right? You do if you're watching YouTube. You do if you post YouTube. You do if you have one of the 100 million social media apps that are out there, right? you are essentially already a number. So there should be able to be a way for the technology that we have to put in a database, your personal database, your skills, your knowledge, all that. Okay? And every time that you read a book, study a book, or whatever, you should be able to write that book down and get points, credit points, for educational level from that book. If the book's about spirituality, it would go towards spiritual. If it's about political, it would go to a poli-sci degree, etc., etc., etc. You get what I'm getting at. So there should be a way for you to put in your public database this information, and then all this stuff is added to gain a point system and thus gain free credits for what is considered college classes. You should be able to get free credits based off of life experience, based off of self-taught education, based off of anything and everything you've done, based off of your schooling, based off the books you read, based off of the other knowledge you required, based off of the seminars you went to, the things you watched on YouTube, the things that you, etc. Because YouTube has all kinds of videos of how to do things. So if you watch that video, it should be automatically, like, I guess you, as soon as you like the video and it shows that you watched the whole entire video, it should be automatically accredited to your account from that link, because it's based off of your Gmail or whatever, which is connected to your Social Security somehow. Point is, all that information should be put into the database of you, the individual. And if there is a requirement, a government requirement or something, that information should be accredited to you for learning it without having to go to some kind of former educational schooling. And thus people could gain college credits and doctorates just from what would be considered life university or self-taught university or United States University or whatever we want to call it, right? As a citizen, with your basically having a barcode on your driver's license, which is connected to your Social Security card, we could literally make this happen. We have the technology to create this UnitedStates.gov website or whatever that would be .education or something. The point is, we have the technology to make it happen, and if we did this, people would not have to pay ridiculous amounts of money to go hear schools run by private corporations that have tenured professors that are sprouting out their own ideologies and that require people to buy their book that they wrote just so that you can go through their classes. People would earn these and then get graded based off of that professor's opinion of you and opinion of what you wrote. That is how colleges work. I am all for education. I'm all for public funded education. I'm all for private institutions running the education system. But on top of that, I am for independent, self-taught, and education too. I think people should be credited with life skills. They should be credited with everything they do. I think should be put part of their education, from experience, job experiences, life experiences, class. There used to be Boy Scouts. I don't know if there's still any Boy Scouts, but there's other scouting type groups, and you would earn merit badges and whatnot. Those merit badges should be able. There was a record you could keep of the merit badges. Those merit badges that I'm talking about that you earned should be on this, regardless of what agency or organization you're a part of. There was a time when being an Eagle Scout and earning merit badges and stuff looked really good. It was equivalent. It could help you get into college, or it could help you get a job, because it was equivalent to college curriculum credits or something, So I'm over here like, why isn't every book I read put into a database, and everybody else's books they read put in a database? Even if it's fiction, you still can learn stuff from it. If you read a history book, that should be put into credits for a degree in whatever the history is, right? If you read a philosophy book, again, philosophical degree. If you read a political book, regardless of whether it's written from Republican, Democrat, whatever, that should be put into the poli-sci group, right? If you read science fiction books, should be put into a science book, or you read an actual science book, should be put into the science degrees, depending on what kind, because there's hundreds of different kinds of sciences. But you get what I'm getting at, right? If you worked for this person's campaign, even if you only was holding signs out at the polling place, that should be put into part of credits for poli-sci, etc. If you worked at this business, the fact that you worked at this business should be part of business administration, especially if you worked as management, or if you worked up to management, or just in general, the fact that you worked should be part of your experience to get in a business administration degree. That's what I'm getting at. Life experience should count equal to educational experience. All these things that you read, all these things that you learned, if you went to this seminar about this, or you went, when you were a kid, you went to this nonprofit organization that taught you camping and other survivalist or life-saving skills, or maybe they taught you first aid, and they taught you various different things, maybe history, maybe social things, whatever. That information should be put into this database that I'm talking about and be worth the equivalent of what people are already getting pieces of paper for. And then when your company was to hire or was to look you up, all they'd have to do is have, because it would be connected to your driver's license, which is connected to your social security card, which you have to give anyway for the, to apply for these jobs, they could look you up and it would show that you have these skills, and they would then know that you know what you're talking about because of this database that exists, and they would be able to compare that to, is this a good candidate for our company? Through an algorithm that shows, hey, this is a good candidate for our company. He applied, she applied, they applied, whatever. And according to all these things they have from their life experience that they've gone to, that they've done, that they've learned, that they've read, that they've studied, it would even include, I don't think some people would want to know what search histories you've looked up, Some people probably would not want people to know their search history, but if you have a search history where you looked up something educational, at least, I think that should also be put into your account. So sometimes I'm studying and it might be a religious thing or it might be a scientific thing, and I'll look it up on the Google or the internet or whatever. And looking up these things on the Google, the internet, and whatnot should be meaning you read the article because you clicked on the link and you read the article. That type of information, if you do that, should also probably be put into into your knowledge educational account. Now, that's pretty much kind of something I was thinking about after saying that education should be free. Education is free. There's a library. You can go to the library and get hundreds of books that you can read. The problem is, while education is free, there's no system put in place for us to get accredited for all the free education that we go to. The only way you can get accredited for your education is by having pieces of paper on your walls that say you're educated. You have to go to online classes. You have to go to or offline classes or college classes or whatever. And all these classes and things that you have to do to get the hours and the credits for the education are completely controlled. They are, none of them do you have the power over deciding. You are completely out of control when it comes to all this education. They tell you what they want you to know so that they can then license you and give you a degree and a diploma. I don't think that should be the case. As a libertarian, I don't see why the government should have the control over what you learn and what you are allowed or not allowed to do. Meaning, you shouldn't have to have licenses to do all these things. I don't think you should have a license. I think, yes, you should have licenses to be part of the database as a citizen, but I don't think you should have to renew licenses. I think once you get in a license, that it should last for life and that you shouldn't have to pay to renew it. I think that if you own a piece of property, that you should have the right to use and operate that property without it ever being able to be revoked from your ability to own and operate that piece of property. For example, a car. That meaning if you own a car, you should be able to drive the car and there's nothing they should be able to do to revoke your driver's license. Matter of fact, and you shouldn't have to register a vehicle. You shouldn't have to register a car. You shouldn't have to register your house. Meaning, I don't believe in the taxation system that exists and the fees system that exists. I believe in, okay, if there are standards that there need to be met to prove that you are smart enough to do what you say you can do, I believe there probably should be places to get those licenses. But I don't think that the citizen should have to pay to take the tests because they're a citizen. As a citizen, the government services should be free because you're a citizen, right? You pay taxes. Why are you paying additional taxes? You're already paying your income tax, right? Your income tax that you're paying should include the right to take all these government tests to see if you're qualified or educated to gain these various different licenses. For example, there's the bar examination, there's the medical board license, there's every trade just about has licenses. There are. My dad was in pest control his whole entire life. Those pest control guys have to be licensed, and then they have to renew those licenses every year. They have to make sure they keep up a certain amount of points, or else that license can be removed. It's the same with plumbers, electricians, just about everything, right? HVAC, etc., etc., etc. There's so many different things and trades and professions out there nowadays that the people have to literally have licenses, and if they do something wrong or they don't keep up the same amount of points or whatever, their license can be took away by the government, and then they have to take the tests and pay for taking the tests and all that over again, and they might have to wait a year before they can do that. Like, to be a security guard, you have to have a license. To sell alcohol, you have to have a license. There's so many things that you have to have an actual license for, and you have to keep up that license. You have to keep up a certain amount of points every year to keep the license going, or else the license can get revoked, and then you lose your job because you didn't keep up with the points, you know? So I think if we have to have licenses, that they should never be able to be revoked. And they should be lifetime licenses. And that you shouldn't have to pay to get them. That's how I feel about it. I mean, yeah, okay? So if you have to have licenses, part of paying your income tax and everybody else paying the income tax means you should be able to go to these license testing facilities for free, not have to pay a fee, and then take the tests, and if you pass, you then get the license, and then you have that license, which means you have the piece. So theoretically, you can still do this. You can get a license for, say, the bar exam. Theoretically, you can pass the bar exam without going to college. It's been done. It can happen. And then you could, since you passed the bar exam, you can practice law, right? That's how that one works. Which, without a law degree, because you have passed the bar examination, right? So you could theoretically practice law without having a law degree. Theoretically, you can pass the HVAC or the electricians or the plumbing or whatever other degree without going to the trade school for it. My dad never went to any trade schools or college, and he managed to keep his points. His job would sponsor classes or have him go to classes, and they would basically pay for it so that he could keep up his points every year. Or may not have been every year, may have been every 5 years or whatever, when it has time to renew. What I'm advocating for is the eliminating of the necessity to renew licenses. I'm also advocating for the necessity to have to pay fees to take tests to get said licenses. Those are the two different things, two things I would be advocating for. I'm not necessarily advocating that we abolish the whole entire license system altogether, but I would be advocating that you wouldn't get fined if you got caught doing the job on your own property without having a license, especially if it's would be considered, or on someone else's property, especially if it would be considered manual labor. like non-skilled labor. But there really is no such thing as non-skilled labor because every type of labor requires you to use skill to do the labor. So there's actually no such thing as non-skilled labor. Non-skilled labor basically is translated as I don't have a piece of paper degree saying that I am, or a license saying that I am educated and qualified to do this particular job. Does it mean I can't do the job? No. It just means I don't have the license or the degree that says I can do the job. I've done plumbing. I've done electrical. I've done roofing. I've done carpentry work. I've cooked. Do I have a degree in any of those? No. Do I have a license in any of those? No. Am I just still a Jeff of all trades? Yes. What's the difference? I've done automotive mechanic work and I've done all kinds of work. So I've done all kinds of jobs. Should I be considered unskilled labor? I don't think so, because I'm skilled in doing a lot of different things. Am I classified as unskilled labor? Yes, I would be classified as unskilled labor because, simple fact, don't have the license or the piece of paper, which are just ways for the government to collect additional revenue from you and to control you. Because who makes these standards to keep up the points? Who creates the standards to keep up, to earn the degree? And how do you get them? You grease the wheels a little bit, right? With money, okay? So who makes the educational standards? And who makes the standards of what is required and how long a license lasts? The government! You got it! So, what is that? The government has all the power. They have the power to give it to you and to take it away from you and determine how good, how long it lasts, what it's good for, and they also have the power to add additional standards or take away standards from your thing. So, say you're a plumber and the government has just passed a new law, and that new law requires you to now renew your plumber's license. You used to get to renew it every 5 years. The new law says you have to renew it every 3 years. Effective immediately. Also, the new laws requires you to get a few more standards. So, some new standards now are in play. And the old standards are not. Or are also still in play, which means you have to go take an additional new test so that you can pass those standards. Or they require you to now say, well, you have to have a minimum of blah amount of experience. So you just got the license, but you haven't worked in that industry in about a year. And they've passed a rule that says if you haven't worked in the industry in a certain amount of time, they're going to take your license away. You see what I'm getting at? All this is tyrannical and wrong, and that's why it needs to be abolished. And we're talking about this is including for every industry, every, lots of every trade just about is this. And this is why we have to pretty much have unions, because of the government making rules. So we have to have unions to fight the government. And then the unions are in cahoots with the government, though, in some things, and in some things they're not. So, the unions are not just also probably pretty bad. Now, another thing with all these licenses that I think should last for life and should never be able to be revoked and stuff like that. Now, there might be some, because, there's like a public safety issue when it comes to like health and doctor and medical and stuff licensing. So there might have to be some exceptions, but for the most part, I'm talking about trade schools. I'm talking about trades professions that have to be licensed. Ones that most trade people are in trade unions for and stuff. I'm not totally against unions, but I'm not totally opposed to unions either. These licenses, here's the next thing. They're usually based off of standards from state standards. They're not necessarily based off of federal standards. Now, in some cases, they have federal standards, but they're usually issued by the states. Another thing I would like to see is the idea, which is a very interesting idea. It's happening with the reciprocity for, concealed and carried and open carry permits. That's the thing Trump's trying to do, which I like it. But he's not doing enough. This should include all licenses for all trade professions. Meaning my Tennessee plumber's license should work in California. I don't have one, but say I had one. If I'm an HVAC technician in Arkansas, I should be able to travel to South Carolina and still operate with my HVAC license from my home state. My mechanic's license that's issued to me in Florida should last in Washington. It should work in Washington if I just happen to be in Washington. I shouldn't be able to get pulled over by the police officers when I'm driving through state to state and they say, oh, wait a minute, I can't do that here because I'm not licensed in this state. With the guns, sure. With everything else, yes, also. It's just like a driver's license. Why is it that basically almost the only license that you can use anywhere is your driver's license? Why aren't all other licenses recognized in all 50 states? Why is my business license only recognized in my home state? If I want to operate my business in multiple states, I have to get additional business licenses for other states. Why is that? I don't see that being necessary personally. I don't see why I should need, if I shouldn't have to get a driver's license in all 50 states to drive in all 50 states, then why should I have to get a new license to be a doctor, to be a lawyer, to be to operate a business, to own a business, to be a plumber, a carpenter, an electrician, HVAC? The list goes on and on and on. You get what I'm getting at. And the unions, why haven't y'all been fighting for this for years? Y'all have had a chance. Like I say, I'm not against unions, but I'm not necessarily always for them either. They've had a chance to make stuff like this happen. They've had the ability to fight for stuff like this to be happening. But the main thing unions only focus on is the people in their union and how much money they get paid. You should be fighting for everybody in the industry that you're a union of, regardless of if they're a member of the union or not. That is the one problem I have with unions. They only fight for the people that are members of the union instead of fighting for everybody in the industry. And if they would fight for everybody in the industry, after a while it would come down to the fact that they wouldn't need to exist anymore, because they would get everybody in the industry that they're a union of everything that they need or require. And we would only need local unions for corporations, which again, corporations don't like unions. There's no grocery store union. There's no retail union. There's only unions in, you guessed it, trade fields. And there are local unions, and then there's national unions. But there's state unions. And they're all in the trade industries. With the exception of teachers. That's like one of them that has an exception. And most teachers work for the government. So this is an interesting problem here. Unions for the teachers make it where the government can't get rid of them. That's another problem I have with unions. They are mostly for the trade industry, but then they're also for the teacher industry, which is not really an industry. Because again, most people can teach themselves. Like, everything you need to know is literally on your phone right now. There are ways to find everything you need to know on the internet. There are YouTube videos, TikTok videos. There are plenty of how to do it, this, how to do that videos. Plus, there are hundreds, thousands upon thousands of books on how to do any and every single thing just about at your local library. So if it's not on the internet, it's at your local library. If it's not if there's not a video about how to do it, there's a book which you can acquire for free at the local library. So just throwing that out there. So I've just did almost another 40-minute video, and I'm about ready to rest from that 40-minute video, and I think I'm good. And I've discussed a bunch of different topics here, because that's how my mind rambles. I go from one topic to another topic, and I'm going to leave that with you now, and I'm going to be saying that you're amazing if you watch all 40 minutes. You're like super awesome and amazing, and that God is good all the time. All the time, God is good. Keep on gaming. Keep on collecting. Like, comment, subscribe, share. And you got 2 vlogs. Actually, you got 3 vlogs today. Wow. One was short and sweet, but these 2 are real long. So I guess I just have not learned the art of getting my message across in like 5 minutes or less, which, I'm sorry, I like to talk. And if you've lasted this long, you know I like to talk. And can talk about almost anything and everything subject that I am passionate about, for lack of a better word. Anyway, have a great day. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a blessed day. And later. Signing off right about now.